Ever since the dawn of time, degenerates have had this primal urge to gamble. It's just ingrained in our DNA. Whether we trade stocks, go to the casino, shoot dice in some back alley, or it's the crackheads hitting their pipe and praying to the RNG gods, it's not laced with fun. But among all degenerate gambles in the history of mankind, there's one that takes the crown as the #1 most degenerate gamble. A financial play so stupid that it almost killed the greatest economic superpower the world has ever seen. It all started with the American dream. A loving wife, 2 beautiful children, an 8-cylinder pickup truck, shotgunning beer, felony charges for aggravated assault, and most importantly, having your own home. The government especially encouraged the latter by cutting interest rates from 6.5% in 2001 to a record low of 1% in 2003, making it much cheaper to get a mortgage. This wasn't just big news for young families trying to buy a home. This was insane for investors. You know what? Forget about all this family bullshit. The real American dream is about one thing only: getting rich quickly. Real estate was going crazy. If you bought a house in 2000, by 2006 it might be worth double. In places like Nevada, prices have increased by almost 30% in just 1 year. House flipping became a national obsession. People would buy the shittiest trap house, do some quick renovations, and sell for huge profits. TV shows from that era glorified this lifestyle, and with success stories left and right, everybody wanted to get into real estate. Andy, the alcoholic janitor, suddenly became Andy, the real estate mogul. But wait a second, how can a janitor making minimum wage get approved for a $600,000 loan? You see, we were in a gold rush, and just like back in the day, the guys who made the most money were the ones selling shovels. The banks were printing money, but they wanted more. So instead of doing due diligence and verifying a stable income, they introduced so-called ninja loans, which stood for no income, no job, and no assets. It didn't matter if you were Bill Gates or a local tweaker selling magic fertilizer on Facebook Marketplace.
How are you selling them rare eggs? How much you selling them for?
$929.
What's so special about them?
They sent me to Apollo 6, and there was a moon cricket.
You went to Apollo 6 and there were some moon crickets?
Yep.
Literally anyone could get a mortgage, but the banks were carrying a huge risk because there was a high chance that these fine gentlemen just wouldn't pay. So they created bundles of thousands of these ninja loans, sprinkled in a few good mortgages, and sold them on Wall Street as so-called mortgage-backed securities. They also further crafted these securities into CDOs and CDO squared, but to me this sounds like financial alchemist wizardry shit, and I don't even want to pretend to understand any of this, but apparently neither did the banks. So just think of CDOs and CDO squared as another name for mortgage-backed securities. It's the same cheap Chinese dropshipping product, just from another website. That's essentially what they were doing. They were dropshipping shitty loan mystery boxes to other investors. Now you might be wondering, who would buy this trash? And the answer is, nobody would. That's why the banks use their secret weapon, which is committing fraud. Financial products in the US are rated by credit rating agencies like Moody's or S&P. The scale goes from AAA, which means extremely safe good investment, to D, which means degenerate gamble. So the banks started bribing agencies to rate these securities consisting of their own bad mortgages, guaranteeing that juicy AAA certification. Suddenly, everybody was hooked. Hedge funds, investment banks, insurance companies, and even pension funds were loading up on mortgage-backed securities. Soon, the big players from Asia and Europe stepped in, buying over $700 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities. And why wouldn't they? They had the same safety rating as US Treasury bonds, but with slightly higher yields. This created a feedback loop, and the mortgage banks started giving out even more loans. Sure, this was borderline lobotomy levels of risky, but as long as everybody was making money, real estate prices kept rising, and people were making their monthly payments, everything was fine. Until it wasn't. You see, Andy's mortgage contract had a hidden clause which said something about adjustable mortgage rates. By 2007, his monthly payment jumped to $3.5 grand, way too much for a janitor making $40,000 a year. So he did what any rational human being would do in this scenario: drink a whole bottle of and tactically ignore letters from the bank. But it wasn't just Andy. Millions of people stopped paying, and the default rates shot up to 30%. With real estate prices falling for the first time in almost 20 years, banks ran into a huge liquidity issue. By March 2007, the subprime mortgage industry completely collapsed. More than 25 subprime lenders either reported massive losses or even declared bankruptcy. The investors realized that they've been lied to. All of these securities weren't AAA, they were junk. They tried to sell immediately, but it was too late. This shit was worthless. Credit markets froze, hedge funds started imploding, and by September 2008, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy with over 600 billion in debt. The collapse triggered a global financial meltdown. Stock markets crashed worldwide. To avoid a complete economic disaster, the United States government had to step in with almost $1 trillion in bailouts. Unemployment doubled. Millions of families lost their homes. It took years for the economy to recover. And only one question remains. Whose fault was it? Was it the people who didn't pay? Was it the mortgage companies? Was it you for not subscribing? Was it the government or the investors? Please let me know in the comments.